Welcome to Important Updates, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you are new here, do not forget to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an update. I bet you didn't know that some of the fiercest battles in global politics are fought over companies you've never even heard of. Hidden giants whose influence shapes the future in ways most people never realize. While headlines focus on presidents and prime ministers, it's the silent struggles over technology and industry that often determine the balance of power. This is the story of Nexperia, a Dutch semiconductor firm that, almost overnight, found itself thrust into the very heart of the escalating US-China tech war. Once a relatively obscure player, Nexperia has become a symbol of how even mid-sized companies can become pawns in a much larger geopolitical chess game. The conflict at stake here isn't just about who makes the world's microchips, it's about shifting alliances, the rise of economic nationalism, and the incredibly tough choices facing smaller nations caught between two technological superpowers. For countries like the Netherlands, every decision carries enormous weight, with the potential to impact global supply chains and international relations. Semiconductors are the backbone of modern life, powering everything from the smartphones in our pockets to the most advanced military hardware. Without them, our digital world would grind to a halt, making control over their production a matter of strategic importance. As technology has evolved into a matter of national security, the world's deep interdependence has turned from a strength into a vulnerability. Nations now worry that reliance on foreign technology could leave them exposed to economic pressure or even sabotage. The Nexperia saga reveals how US efforts to curb China's technological rise have triggered a cascade of unintended consequences, disrupting established partnerships and reshaping the global tech landscape in unpredictable ways. By examining this case, we see how economic policy and national security are now inseparable, and how middle powers, like the Netherlands, are forced to navigate a new, unpredictable world where every choice can tip the scales in the global struggle for technological supremacy. Nexperia, born from the legacy of Philips, is a global leader in essential semiconductors, diodes, transistors, and logic devices found in everything from cars to industrial machinery. In 2019, Chinese tech firm Wingtech acquired Nexperia, placing a key European chipmaker under Chinese control. At first, it seemed like a business deal, access to China's market for Nexperia, and manufacturing expertise for Wingtech. But as US-China tensions grew, Nexperia became a symbol of China's strategy to acquire foreign technology. Its advanced factories and skilled workforce in Nijmegen anchor a vital regional tech ecosystem. Nexperia's chips, while not cutting-edge, are crucial for Europe's automotive and defense sectors. Their dual-use potential, civilian and military, drew the attention of US security officials. The idea of a Chinese-owned company mass-producing these components in Europe became a major strategic concern for Washington. In recent years, the United States has made it a top priority to slow down China's rapid technological rise, viewing this as a critical issue for both national security and the future of global economic leadership. American policymakers see China's growing capabilities in advanced technology as a direct challenge to the US's long-standing dominance in innovation and global markets. The stakes are high, as the US believes that losing its technological edge could undermine not only its economic power, but also its military and strategic influence around the world. At the heart of this rivalry are semiconductors, the tiny chips that power everything from smartphones to fighter jets. These chips have become the main battleground in the tech war, as they are essential for both civilian and military applications. To contain China's ambitions, the US has imposed strict export controls and placed Chinese firms on entity lists, effectively cutting them off from acquiring the most advanced American technology. These measures don't just apply to US companies, they extend globally, blocking any company anywhere in the world from using American-designed technology or equipment to supply advanced chips to China. This has created a ripple effect throughout the global tech supply chain, forcing companies and countries to reconsider their business relationships. One company caught in the crossfire is Nexperia, a major semiconductor firm now under Chinese ownership, which quickly drew intense scrutiny from US officials concerned about technology transfer and security risks. American officials have ramped up pressure on European allies, especially the Netherlands, urging them to reconsider their ties with both Nexperia and the broader Chinese tech sector. The US argues that cooperation with Chinese-owned firms could compromise Western security. The core argument is that allowing a Chinese-owned company to operate within NATO territory, especially one making dual-use chips that could be used for both civilian and military purposes, poses a significant security risk to the alliance. In response, Washington has pushed for stricter investment screening and tighter export license restrictions, aiming to prevent sensitive technology from falling into Chinese hands. These moves have tested the unity of America's allies, as they must balance economic interests with growing concerns about the China threat and the need for collective security. The Netherlands, home to both Nexperia and the world-leading chip equipment maker ASML, now finds itself at the center of this escalating tech war, forced to choose sides as the US and China battle for technological supremacy. China didn't simply sit back as the US tightened the screws on its technology sector. Instead, Beijing responded with a calculated show of strength, determined to defend its interests and send a message to Washington and the world. At high-profile press conferences, Chinese officials condemned US actions as blatant technological bullying, accusing Washington of trying to stifle China's rise. Beijing worked hard to rally support from the global South, positioning itself as a champion for developing nations facing similar pressures. In a bold countermove, China imposed strict export controls on critical materials like gallium and germanium, essential for making semiconductors and electronics. This triggered immediate, global price spikes, sending shockwaves through Western industries and exposing just how dependent the world was on Chinese supply chains for these rare resources. Beijing also launched sweeping security reviews and outright bans on US firms such as Micron, citing national security concerns. These actions not only punished American companies, but also gave a significant boost to Chinese tech competitors, accelerating the growth of domestic champions. China's broader strategy became clear: replace foreign technology with homegrown alternatives, invest heavily in research and development, and use access to its massive market as a powerful bargaining chip in global negotiations. Beijing didn't stop with the US. It issued stern warnings to American allies, like the Netherlands and South Korea, making it clear that siding with Washington could mean losing access to China's enormous consumer base and lucrative business opportunities. The message was unmistakable: economic retaliation was not just a threat, but a real possibility. Chinese state media amplified this stance, fueling anxiety among multinational businesses operating in the region. This aggressive posture forced allied governments and global corporations to make tough choices, balancing US security demands against the very real risk of losing access to China's vast and growing market. The result: Europe and Asia found themselves transformed into battlegrounds for superpower rivalry, as nations weighed their economic futures against the shifting tides of global power. For the Netherlands, the Nexperia crisis was a diplomatic and economic nightmare. As a US ally and a trading nation, the Dutch government was caught between security obligations and economic interests. Washington's pressure focused first on ASML, blocking exports of advanced chip-making machines to China, then expanded to Nexperia. Meanwhile, China threatened Dutch companies with retaliation if the Netherlands aligned with US restrictions. Dutch businesses, heavily invested in China, lobbied for a pragmatic approach. The government was split. Security ministries leaned toward the US, while economic ministries feared trade losses. The result was strategic ambiguity, partial compliance with US demands but resistance and delay elsewhere. This indecision satisfied no one, making the Netherlands appear weak to both Washington and Beijing. The Nexperia case exposed the vulnerabilities of middle powers trapped between superpower demands. The Nexperia conflict had real consequences for Dutch workers and the local economy. In Nijmegen, Nexperia was a major employer and a pillar of the tech ecosystem. As tensions rose, uncertainty gripped the company and its employees. In 2024, Wingtech slashed planned investments in Europe, halting expansion in Nijmegen and shifting focus to China. This meant lost jobs, stalled research, and shrinking orders for local suppliers. The ripple effect hit the entire region, with layoffs and economic insecurity spreading. Ironically, US pressure to protect Western security ended up hollowing out a key European tech asset. For workers, the grand strategies of Washington and Beijing translated into real threats to their livelihoods. The Nexperia fallout mirrored a global trend, the unraveling of tech supply chains. The US-China tech war triggered chaos for companies dependent on stable component flows. Export controls and retaliatory measures created bottlenecks, delays, and price hikes. Governments and firms scrambled to onshore or friendshore production, prioritizing security over efficiency. The US and EU poured billions into new chip fabs, risking future overcapacity. The world split into US and China-aligned tech spheres, forcing companies to pick sides and duplicate supply chains. For the Netherlands, this meant lost business, a tarnished reputation, and a threat to its role as Europe's tech gateway. The message to global investors: doing business in the Netherlands now came with geopolitical risk. The Nexperia saga forced Europe to confront its dependence on foreign tech and the need for technological sovereignty. The EU is now building tools to defend its industries, screening foreign investments and developing anti-coercion measures. The goal: protect strategic assets and prevent hostile takeovers. But true sovereignty requires massive investment in R&D, manufacturing, and skills. The EU's CHIPS Act is a start, but internal divisions and limited resources remain obstacles. The Nexperia case was a wake-up call. Economics and geopolitics can't be separated. Europe and other middle powers must build their own strengths and collaborate with like-minded partners. The alternative, being pawns in a US-China rivalry, is no longer acceptable. The Nexperia story is a lesson in unintended consequences. US efforts to contain China's tech sector backfired, hurting allies and accelerating China's self-sufficiency. The Netherlands was left economically bruised and politically adrift. The era of hyper-globalization is over. National security and economic policy are now fused. Businesses must navigate fragmented supply chains and rising political risk. Middle powers need independent strategies to avoid being crushed between superpowers. The Nexperia fallout shows a world of weaponized supply chains and transactional alliances. The future belongs to those with the courage to chart their own course in this new, uncertain world.